Jeremy Jungling. I'm the owner and head coach of Run Strong Training. And today's training tip is fueling in training and racing. How to use energy and fuel to get the most out of your training and your racing experience. So let's start with talking about how your body accesses fuel and finds energy. Your body stores energy in a couple of ways. One way is it stores it in fat, and it can use fat as energy. And that's pretty much an unlimited resource. Even the leanest of us has plenty of body fat somewhere within our body that the body can use to access as fuel. The other energy source is stored glycogen. We'll call that, say, carbs. We'll say carbs for the sake of this discussion. But that's a limited resource. The harder you work, the more you start using carbs. So the way the body uses these two energy sources is they use them at the same time, but they use them in different ratios. So when you're at rest or working very aerobically, so if you're walking or running a very slow, easy pace, your body is mostly burning fat. So let's call it a 90-10 ratio of fat to glycogen stores. And you can do that for a long time because your body will keep burning the primarily fat as a fuel source. The harder you work, the faster you go, you start dipping into those glycogen stores. So think of fat as kind of a slow burning fuel, and your carbs or glycogen stores as a high octane fuel. A good example that I always use to try to give to my runners to think about is you've probably all been on a boat. It's a little fishing boat that has a hand drive motor in the back. And that motor is usually connected to a gas can. I always picture it as being a red gas can, a large can filled with fuel. Now picture that, say that you're the motor and that big red can is your fat stores. So it's pretty much unlimited. No matter how fast you go, no matter how long you go, you're probably gonna have fuel in that tank. But imagine that you also have another tank off the other side of the boat that's smaller, and that's filled with your glycogen stores, and that's more high octane fuel. So as you're driving the boat, as you crank the motor up, when you're idling along, you're burning all the fuel from the big tank filled with fat. As you increase the throttle and turn up the throttle and start speeding up, it starts to pull energy from that other tank as well. And this is kind of how your body works. The slower you go, the more you're burning fat. The faster you go, the higher that ratio, the lower that ratio gets, where you're burning more carbs and less fat. Now, since the glycogen or the carb stores are unlimited, you have to really balance that with how far you're going and how fast you're going. Now, you can top off those glycogen stores. You can open the lid on that can and pour some stuff in there. And that's where in racing or in training nutrition comes in. That's where things like gels or liquid nutrition comes in, things that give you calories or electrolytes while you're exercising. You can top off that glycogen store, that carb fuel tank, and get some more energy, but you can't really do that with fat. Fat has to go through a longer process to be metabolized into the system, stored as fat, and then used as fuel. So taking in fat for fueling during training or during racing for something like a half marathon is really not necessary. So you think about these two gas tanks. The faster you go, like I said, the more you're burning the fast fuel. So your training should reflect that fuel usage. So if you're going out, in a previous video we talked about doing a lot of aerobic training. If you're truly training aerobically, which you should, what that's doing is your body is building the aerobic system, its ability to process fat as fuel. The more you train at that, the faster you can get while still remaining aerobic, and that ratio doesn't get out of whack. So you can go a little faster and you're still burning primarily fat as fuel. Having said that, you still want to push harder, you want to go a little faster occasionally. So when you're working harder, you want to top off that glycogen storage tank with some things like gels. We sell goo gels and liquid hydration. Goo makes it good. Some tabs you can put in your water bottles that will give you calories and electrolytes. So you have to think about what you're doing in training. So if you're going out for a long, easy run, say 10 miles, it's supposed to be an aerobic, easy run, really your main concerns on that are hydration, which would mean some kind of drink with electrolytes. You don't necessarily need calories because you don't necessarily need to be topping off that tank on an easy run because you shouldn't be working that hard. But you do want to consider things like electrolytes. So sodium is very important. We use Salt Stick chews. They make capsules as well. which are great for keeping electrolytes in balance when you're training. So if you're doing a 10-mile easy run, you want to train that aerobic system. You don't want to overload it with fast burning fuel like gels. You can go out there and operate aerobically and you'll burn fat as fuel, and you'll train your body to burn fat as fuel. If you're going out, however, doing some tempo or some race pace work, in that case you want to train your body to what it's going to experience on race day. And since that's a comparable effort in training, there you want to take some gels and fuel that workout. So, you know, a lot of people say 100 calories per how much they should intake, and a lot of people say 100 calories per 30 minutes, per 60 minutes, 200 calories, whatever it might be. Figure out in training what works best for you. Consider also the conditions. If you're fatigued, you might need a little more energy just because your heart rate might be a little higher and your body might be asking more. Glycogen stores more quick burning energy. So just consider what the day is like. If it's hot, if it's humid and you're sweating a lot, you're going to need plenty of electrolytes. Your heart rate's probably going to be a little higher, so you might need some fueling as far as gels or some quick burning, fast metabolizing food at that time as well. So focus on the type of work you're doing, fuel for that type of work. Think about the gas can example from the boats, the big tank and the small tank. Another one tip that we always use, a lot of people like to avoid caffeine. Caffeine is actually one of the few known legal performance enhancing stimulants. It's good, it's okay, but it will maybe have to give people trouble with their stomach. And this is another reason you want to test your nutrition in training, your fueling in training, is to make sure that the things you're using work well with you and are digested well with your stomach. Everybody's different. There's lots of different products you can try. But practice the fueling. Think of that example that I gave you. Train accordingly. If you have any questions about putting together a training fueling plan or a racing fueling plan, you want to talk to me about that, you can email me, jeremy@runstrong.fit, that's .fit, or you can find us on our website at www.runstrongshop.com or on Facebook at runstrongms. So that's fueling for training and racing. Hope it helps. We'll see you out there. Thanks for listening.